At 70 years old, high school junior Shirley Lyner is juggling thoughts of college while running a babysitting service. However, this isn't your typical babysitting gig. Shirley's service provides 10 call girls to the dads of young children. The story takes an unexpected turn when Shirley, after fooling around with one of her customers, transforms her babysitting service into a call girl service for married men. The film delves into the complexities of relationships, desire, and the blurred line between innocence and temptation. If you are interested in a sexually charged real-life story that explores the mesmerizing effect babysitters have on different people, the Babysitters might be worth a watch. Please subscribe, click the bell icon. Stay with us till the end.
A sharp and decided youngster changes her childcare adventure into a specific business taking care of despondent wedded men. In a lodge, Shirley Lyner, a cunning and coordinated junior understudy, describes having a looking after children administration, an organization offering friendship for moderately aged wedded men. The youngster portrays that her motivation in building the business wasn't because she had parental issues but since she needed to bring in cash for school. A couple of months prior at Alfred E. Forrest Secondary School, Shirley was in the homeroom, taking notes as her educator talked about the forthcoming SATs. In the meantime, her uninterested seatmate Melissa Rowan inquired as to whether her indiscriminate stepsister Nadine had a go at getting physically involved with her organic sibling Scott. She called attention to the fact that it wouldn't consider forbidden assuming they did. After class, a decided Shirley returned home and scanned her space for her math book to plan for school confirmation tests. Unfit to find it in her room, her mom Tammy recommended looking at the storm cellar, where Stan, the high schooler's legal advisor father, was working. Not long after, sales representative Michael Beltran got her for a watch. Oddly, when he welcomed her, the bashful understudy hauled her hair behind her ear, suggesting her interest in the wedded man. At the point when they arrived at the Beltrans' home, Shirley met Gail, the spouse, and their child Adam, whom she would keep an eye on the guardians who were away for a gathering. Higher up, the adolescent met Mikey, the more seasoned sibling, who was disturbed because he needed to be left alone with his more youthful kin. Notwithstanding, the mother brought up that they required a babysitter to deal with them in the event of a crisis. That evening, Michael and Gail met at the cafe with their money manager companion Jerry Touchman, what's more, his better half, Tina. The business visionary referenced opening 2 additional eateries the following year and intended to make the sales representative the VP under him. In the meantime, Shirley was reading up for her school tests when Adam abruptly moved toward her because he got some soil on his article of clothing. After the adolescent put the shirt in the clothes washer in the cellar, she strolled and stopped after seeing a scaled-down city and saw the single-man puppet. Returning to the vehicle, Michael showed interest in Jerry's proposition. Notwithstanding, Gail maintained that her life partner should turn it down since she thought he was at that point doing extraordinary in his present place of employment as a sales representative. Before opening the vehicle's front entryway, the man welcomed his better half to see the deserted train close by, yet she declined, demanding to return home because the children were sitting tight for them. At the point when the couple returned home, they saw Shirley carefully cleaning the floor to eliminate a few spots utilizing a cleaner with a solid fragrance. Not long after, Michael brought the sitter back home. While out and about, the adolescent's stomach abruptly snarled, provoking the man to welcome her to eat at a burger joint. There, the two quietly played with one another, figuring out they were both evening people and I am doing moronic things. Not long after Shirley imparted her fixation on keeping things all together, she asked Michael how he met Gail. Accordingly, he shared that he met his significant other, who used to be inconvenient, beyond Ann Arbor through his companion Jerry, his business person companion. Before leaving the cafe, the wedded sales representative inquired as to whether she previously had a sweetheart. Notwithstanding, she answered by taking a gander at the senseless clients close by, suggesting she didn't have one since folks her age were youthful for her. While heading to Shirley's home, Michael welcomed the sitter to see the deserted train, where they investigated and at last kissed, which the man lamented. After showing up at the adolescent's home, he paid her an additional tip. After arriving home, the upset understudy fanatically cleaned up while looking at the cash she procured. A short time later, she saw her triple appearance in the window. In the meantime, Michael couldn't rest adjacent to his significant other in the wake of acknowledging what he had done. The following day, Shirley went to class, attempting to focus on their regenerative well-being subject. In the meantime, Michael appeared to be engrossed as the chief, George, examined their new potential vehicle item. After class, the babysitter hung out at a bistro with Melissa and Brenda. As her companions squabbled over young ladies asking folks out, the productive adolescent hindered them, demanding they ought to wipe the slate clean with one another. Not long after, Michael, who was in a similar spot, grinned at the sitter from the window. Abruptly, Gail moved toward her, requesting that she care for her children on the impending workday night. In any case, after her watching, the sales representative and the caretaker turned out to be completely close with one another inside the vehicle. Afterwards, after driving her home, the man paid the high schooler a liberal measure of cash. After her meeting, Shirley recovered her all-out profit in her room and stated inconvenience on the as much as possible bill before returning it under her sleeping cushion. In the interim, Michael promptly washed his garments after getting back. A while later, he saw that the little man in his small city had a lady next to him, uncovering that the caretaker had set it due to her fixation on keeping things set up. The following day in science class, the splendid understudy uncovered to Melissa that she had been making heaps of money from looking after children. In the interim, the sales representative likewise imparted his personal experiences to Jerry, who promptly became keen on employing a sitter for him. At the point when Michael called Shirley to request a babysitter for his companion, she relegated Melissa to do the work. After the new caretaker focused on the children, the business person invested close energy in her as he drove her to the bistro. After gathering her companion, the insightful youngster mentioned 20% of her compensation as she was the person who organized the chance for her. In the wake of settling the arrangement, the companions went to a party where the bashful Brenda asked Shirley to go with her in moving toward their schoolmate and his stepbrother's companion, Doug, whom she had eyes only for. Afterwards, the caretaker got calls from two of Jerry's companions, who likewise mentioned sitters, which concerned her since they could wind up in jail. At the point when Melissa caught wind of this, she persuaded her stressed schoolmates that they wouldn't go to prison. In the wake of taking her companion's recommendation, Shirley continued with the business and consented to take one person. Her companion then, at that point, proposed enrolling Brenda on the other one. Before the diligent high schooler left the party, a bashful Scot drew nearer and offered her his hoodie to keep her warm. Soon after, he kissed his splendid schoolmate, who didn't respond to the motion. After the off-kilter experience, he pardoned himself and got back to the party. At the point when Shirley returned home, Michael slipped into her room through the window. As they kissed, Stan abruptly entered the room to request some peroxide, inciting the wedded man to conceal under the adolescent's bed. Not long after, the babysitter's dad remained next to her on the bed to inquire as to whether she was dating Scott since her cohort had required her a few days ago. The young adult then contemplated that she was drained and needed to rest to make her father leave. At the point when Stan left the room, Michael rose out of under the bed, holding Shirley's cash stash, which he tracked down and slipped on the sleeping cushion. In the interim, Jerry's companion Imprint Wessler took Brenda to the forest after she looking after the children work. Nonetheless, when he endeavored to kiss the high schooler, she pulled back, ignorant of the data Shirley had imparted this to her client. Humiliated, the man praised the babysitter's magnificence, in the end prompting them to be private in the grass. Simultaneously, Michael called Shirley, whom she found was occupied with looking after children, another client. After Imprint dropped off Brenda at her home, Melissa and the productive adolescent drew nearer their select, making sense of that they had been carrying on with work together since a month ago. The intrigued youngster then, at that point, mentioned one more client to look after children, her earnest obligation to join the group. Following this, Shirley started formalizing her business by arranging her sitters' timetables and printing out calling cards. In the interim, Michael and Gail ate with the sales rep's chief and spouse. After eating, George stood up to his subordinate about the declining nature of his work, inquiring, assuming something was happening with him. Notwithstanding, the man denied this, recommending modifications on the off chance that the supervisor could have done without the result. Seconds after the fact, the sales rep's better half went into the room with the supervisor's companion, who uncovered that they now and again have Shirley or different young ladies as sitters. This disclosure quietly stunned Michael, who understood the high schooler had maintained a caretaker business at the point when his boss showed him a calling card. Following this, Michael invested some cozy energy with Shirley. In the wake of dropping the high schooler home, they quarreled over the roaring criminal behavior. Understanding the high gamble to the business, the youngster increased her cost to $300, which the man in the end consented to. The following day, Brenda moved toward Nadine and flexed her new coat that she purchased from her, looking after children. At the point when her stepsister showed revenue in bringing in cash, the youngster requested that she be a substitute caretaker for a client without illuminating Shirley first. At the point when the financial specialist found this, she mentioned her 20% cut from the enlist and authoritatively added her to the group. Be that as it may, Nadine double-crossed the business by beginning one all alone and enlisting her companions, bringing about Shirley's deficiency of clients. Along these lines, the contemplative adolescent went up against Brenda, affirming if her stepsister was doing business as an afterthought. Nonetheless, her companion decided not to uncover the reality. After detecting that they were being misled, Shirley and Melissa went to class that evening to go through their deceptive partner's stuff while Michael stood watch for them. After Melissa didn't find anything in Nadine's storage, the threesome crushed all that to disguise their actual expectation. At the point when Michael returned home that evening, he deceived the stressed Gail, illuminating her he was in a meeting. Along these lines, the concerned spouse reminded her significant other to continuously call her on the off chance that he would be late. The following day, the understudies were shocked by the condition of their destroyed school, driving the head to welcome everybody to the corridor. Before making a beeline for the get-together, Shirley and Melissa accumulated Nadine, Brenda, Barbara Yates. Furthermore, Ali Town is in the music room. The pioneer then, at that point, reminded them not to take her clients, try not to flaunt costly things, what's more, consistently give her the conquered 20% cut. After everybody left for the gathering, Melissa remained with the canny financial specialist, illuminating her to take a functioning excursion at Jerry's lodge. She arranged counterfeit consent slips so the young ladies could mask their trip as a school the trip, while the men would tell their families they were having an organization retreat. Upon the arrival of the outing, the sitters and their clients generally went to invest some energy together. After Jerry carried a few unlawful substances to Michael, he uncovered his specific interest in Brenda because she was guileless. He called attention to that the youngster would think back one day and think she had a remarkable encounter. Afterwards, when Michael saw Shirley close to another man, he felt awkward and left. As the youngster followed him, she ran into a stunned Brenda, who was going to the bathroom. Right now, the sales representative offers the splendid high schooler an unlawful tablet after contacting her improperly. In the meantime, Jerry attacks Brenda in the washroom and endeavors to take advantage of her. At the point when the high schooler out of nowhere requires her mother, the moderately aged man stops and afterwards leaves, leaving her youngster damaged. The next day, Michael offers Shirley a ride home. Simultaneously, during Brenda's keeping an eye on, the pained caretaker out of nowhere called Scott to get her so her client wouldn't need to send her home. After showing up at her home, the damaged sitter hammers the entryway, clearly impacted by her lamentable involvement with the getaway house. The next day, Brenda illuminates Shirley that she would rather not be in the business. She then, at that point, concurred and vowed to stay silent about their illegal movement. At the point when Melissa finds out about this, she prevents the money manager from letting their companion go because she could uncover them. Be that as it may, the splendid adolescent just excuses her companion and requests that she return home to plan for the upcoming test. That evening, a few moderately aged men in Wales truly assault Scott, compromising him to keep her sister calm. At the point when the harmed high schooler gets back, Brenda asks who did it to him.